Hey, what's going on, everyone? Andrew at St. Croix Cards on Instagram, and this is the SlabStox FC Show, episode number 3. Good to have you back. So good to be here with all of you, and I hope you're having a great week. I can't tell you, as we start this episode, it's just been a great kind of last couple weeks for me, spending time with the family. I've been busy with my work and my job and just loving every bit of the hobby. And even so much so that I had a chance to set up at the Stevens Point card show in Stevens Point, Wisconsin over the weekend. And just to get out there and to see some people in the community and to have some conversations and just talk all things hobby, it was a lot of fun. But speaking of conversations and talking, we have so much to talk about today in the soccer community, in the soccer world. So we're going to get into it today. And the first thing that we do have to talk about since our last episode is the transfer window in England is now closed. And there were some massive transfer fees and players moving from one club to another. So we're going to talk about a few of them today. I also want to look at a player in the Premier League who has really started to play extremely well post-World Cup, getting some late winners here in the Premier League and the FA Cup. And also, we got to give a little bit of time today to talk about the historic goal that was scored against Manchester City over the weekend, so we'll get there. As we move into the Bundesliga, German League, I want to talk about 3 players in the German leagues who are making waves. And then I want to finish up with a player who is in Ligue 1 in France. He's actually an Arsenal striker. And no, we're not talking about him just because he's an Arsenal striker. He's having a fantastic year in Ligue 1. So I want to talk about him and look at some of his card prices. And then we're going to finish things up today as we look at maybe not player news, maybe it's club news as news and as breaking news here of the Manchester City financial issues. So we'll finish up the show here today talking about that. But without further ado, the window is now closed. And what a transfer deadline day it is. Man, transfer deadline day for me is like Christmas. It's just players moving, transfer fees being talked about. Are they going to move on transfer deadline day? And that was the biggest question for Chelsea and Enzo Fernandez. It wasn't as if Chelsea hadn't spent any money in the window and it was all or nothing with Enzo Fernandez. They had made multiple signings in the windows, but was Chelsea going to be able to get Enzo Fernandez to the club? That was the biggest question, and they were able to do it. They were able to get it done. $132 million move for Enzo Fernandez from Benfica in Portugal, 22 years old, World Cup winner for Argentina, moving to Stamford Bridge. And it is going to be really interesting to see how this all goes down for Chelsea. They have brought in so much talent. They have brought in so many young, talented footballers. Can they make it work? Can this work? I think it's a big experiment. It's high risk for Chelsea. All of these signings within the summer transfer window and now the January transfer window. And it is going to be kind of time to play, time to get the results with the money that has been spent. And a lot of that pressure is going to fall on Enzo Fernandez. He got out there in his very first game over the weekend, and it was a Chelsea-Fulham 0-0 draw. I chalk a lot of that up to the U.S. men's national team center back, Tim Ream. Woo, shout out to Tim Ream. But no, it was a 0-0 draw, and there were a lot of people and a lot of criticism from fans of Chelsea as well as Premier League, other Premier League clubs. I think we got to pump the brakes on this. So much talent, so many new faces. You got to give Chelsea players time to gel. I think when they start to gel, you're going to see some fantastic football. That's me personally. The talent's there. Can Graham Potter put it all together and get them playing forward? Not only do they bring in all these new players, they do also have João Felix on loan, who did get that red card, but his 3-game suspension, I believe, is up now when they go and play West Ham here shortly. It'll be really interesting to see how this team gels and how it moves forward, and can they make a run at the top 4? I believe they're in 9th right now, 9th place, but I think it's within striking distance. If they get on a run of wins, it could get get interesting here for Chelsea moving forward. But Enzo Fernandez does not have a lot of cards or pack pulled cards. He is in Topps Deco, the 2022-2023 Topps Deco. His raw base cards, as of February 1st, there was a sale for $25. That was a fixed price on eBay, and so somebody clicked to buy it now. And so $25 for a base. I didn't see any parallels, raw parallels being graded, which could make some sense if you're pulling a green out of 99 or, lower short, that probably would be one you'd maybe look at grading. So we haven't seen a ton of those pop up, but Enzo Fernandez is one to watch at the second half of the Premier League season. Now I'm going to stick with Chelsea because, let's face it, they made most of the marquee signings in the transfer window. Not saying that they were the only signings, but they were the biggest ones. Mykhaylo Mudryk, 22 years old, from Shakhtar, makes the £88 million move also to the bridge. And he does have some of the same cards Enzo Fernandez does. So his rookie card is in 2022-2023 Topps Deco. And this is his prodigy card out of 49. It is a raw copy. These are the ones I was talking about, Enzo Fernandez, but Mykhaylo Mudryk has a few that have sold. I was pretty impressed with this sale, a raw sale of $349.90. Seemed pretty, for me, instantly, I thought, man, that's pretty high. And you can think, maybe that is high. Maybe you think that's even low for Mudryk and what you think he can do or what he could become at Chelsea. But then very shortly after, January 28th, a raw copy of his green Topps Deco out of 99 raw sold for $200. So some pretty strong sales there for Mudryk. And for Enzo Fernandez and Mudryk, the thing that I'll be looking for, both of these guys played in the Champions League. And so it'll be interesting to see those checklists that come out for Topps Chrome for UEFA Champions League to see if these guys are going to be in those sets. But these are their first cards. It's kind of supply and demand. There is a lot of demand for both of these players as they're young, that they've entered the Premier League. And both of them have had fantastic years for their clubs before making the move. And so demand is high, supply is pretty low for cards that are available. So it'll be interesting moving forward if there are more cards available, what that will do to those prices. So if you're seeing, if you're pulling these cards right now, ask yourself the question, is it something that if more cards and more sets are going to come out, maybe you can kind of start to look at to say, do I want to hold on to this or do I want to move it when demand is so high and supply is so low? So that's something for you guys to decide as you start to kind of decide and figure out what do I want to do with each card that I get. And that's always the fun thing, right, in the hobby is getting to make choices, and the choices are our own. If it's a card you like, you hold on to it. If you're a Chelsea fan and you pull something like the 99 green out of Deco of Mudryk and you are a fan and you decide to keep it, yeah, that's great. If you think you can capitalize and take that $200 and use it somewhere else for maybe a personal collection card, a PC card, or, just put it into something else, that's fine too. So it's all, I love the decisions that we get to make in the hobby, that there are choices and our choices alone. And so that's what makes it fun. But we got those two big transfers. And as the Premier League sits right now, we still have Arsenal on top. Kind of a disappointing week for them. I'll be the first to admit, Sean Dykes comes in and takes over Everton. And I thought to myself, man, when he was in charge of Burnley, it was a defensive masterpiece. I wouldn't be surprised if we took one on the chin. Guess what happens? 1-0 to Everton. Tarkowski gets the goal. Burnley boy getting the big goal for his old manager, who's now his new manager. And so Arsenal dropped points. Thought that was going to be bad, but Manchester City dropped points as well. Chelsea drew, and you can see they're in ninth. And so the top four still sits Arsenal first, Man City second, Man United third, and then Newcastle United in fourth. Those top four are the Champions League places. So that would be, if the league ended today, those would be the four in the Champions League. And then Tottenham Hotspur would be fifth and would be in Europe, followed by Brighton and then Brentford. But one of the players that I really want to talk about is in that position of 6. That Brighton, they did lose, like Trossard came to Arsenal. There were a couple other movements of players. They seem to have big signings, players moving away every summer, winter transfer windows. Mitoma, the 25-year-old left winger, we got to talk about him because, I didn't see him coming. He's not one that was on my radar pre-World Cup. Post-World Cup, absolutely. He's been in 15 matches in the Premier League. He's got 5 goals. He's got 1 assist. In the FA Cup, he has played in 2 games, and he has 1 goal and 1 assist. Many of you, if you are big in the Premier League or the FA Cup, which I absolutely love, the FA Cup, it is my favorite tournament to watch. These small clubs, David versus Goliath kind of stuff. I don't know if anybody watched the Wrexham game, but man, it's so entertaining that these clubs from national leagues or non-league can come in and play Premier Leagues or championship teams and take them down to the wire. So it's pretty cool. But Mitoma had that great winner against Liverpool in the FA Cup, and then he followed that up with a winner this last weekend as well. So he's flying high. He's playing extremely well. I think this transfer fee for Mitoma, and somebody can correct me, I think it was less than £5 million, which is crazy to me when you think of like Enzo Fernandez, or you think of Mykhaylo Mudryk, or even kind of, 12 million that Arsenal paid for Jorginho, less than 5 million for what they are getting out of this kid. And I even think that, so I saw a stat the other day that he makes £10,000 a week. £10,000 a week. That is crazy for what he is doing in the Premier League. So I think a contract extension is in order for Mitoma, just what he's shown so far. But he has been playing really, really well, and I can't wait to see what he does. He doesn't have many cards, so I'm really interested to see if he gets into the Panini Prism Premier League this year. It'll be interesting. But he does have a card. I think it's Epoch. It's a Japanese card company. His base cards are doing pretty well on eBay, and you can see by Card Ladder Pro, kind of laying those all out there for you, so you can see those. I love that you can kind of look and kind of see progression of prices. Now, he did have a sale of $79.99 on January 29th, but they're leveled off January 31st. Sold for $49.90. These are raw cards, and then $45 on February 3rd for raw cards of his rookie card. But it is not it was a brand that I did not know. And so we'll wait to see if Panini or, Panini and Prism and EPL, because Brighton was not in European competition. So you're not going to see him in some of that other product, but a player to definitely watch and enjoy week in and week out in the Premier League. And finally, to kind of wrap up the Premier League for the week, we couldn't wrap it up without talking about Harry Kane, 29 years old, striker for the Tottenham Hotspur. Here he is in 22 games. He already has 17 goals and 1 assist. And nobody is talking about Harry Kane because everyone is talking about Erling Haaland. I think he's still on 25 goals. But for Harry Kane to have 17 goals and 1 assist at this point in the season, incredible. He's got 267 goals for Tottenham. He broke Jimmy Greaves' record over the weekend with his goal, and the only goal in the Spurs-Man City game. That gives him 200 Premier League goals for his career. That gives Harry Kane, that puts Harry Kane third all time in Premier League goals. Now, second on that list, I believe, is Wayne Rooney. Now, Wayne Rooney's either at 206, 207, 208 goals. I know he's somewhere in there, and Harry Kane is within striking distance. I know he's got a way to go to catch Alan Shearer, but to be third on that list at 29 years old, I think is super, super impressive for Harry Kane. I personally believe that, he's pretty, in my own personal opinion, I believe that Harry Kane is undervalued. It doesn't give me good feelings to say that as an Arsenal fan, but you have to appreciate what he's been able to do and what he's been able to accomplish in the Premier League. Now, stats are great, but one of the things that he would always come back around is, when do those trophies start rolling in? When can Harry Kane, when can Spurs win a trophy, an FA Cup, a Premier League, a Champions League? Because that's really what he's missing at this point in his career. Now, I'm also intrigued to see what happens to Harry Kane, because his entire career really has been with Spurs, and he's always kind of been linked away to another club, Man United, Bayern, the places that he could go to win trophies. But he is stuck home. He is stuck in North London. He is stuck with Spurs. I give that a lot of credit as well. But if you look at some of the pricing that you can get, an auto of Harry Kane, numbered auto of Harry Kane for relatively good prices. 2021, 2022 Merlin. This is his blue refractor. This is an autograph out of 75. December 19th, one sold for $51. Fast forward to February 5th. That fixed price was done for $59.99. So even in the course of post-World Cup and kind of the build-up and breaking the record, this card sale of $59.99 was after the record. You look at it and say there's not a crazy jump in pricing. And we're watching probably, statistically one of the best strikers in the Premier League and the Premier League history. So that was the Merlin Refractor Gold. But you also have some of those great insert sets from the World Cup, the 2022 Panini Prism World Cup, national landmarks. And I do really enjoy these cards as well. I do love the kind of the designs behind it of each player. They're really great to see, but kind of breaking down the pricing as a whole as well. January 27th, you had one sell for $162.50. These are all raw. February 4th, you had one sell for $172.50. And even February 4th, you had a little bit of a dip in price, $157.51. Now, all three were at auction, which is, I always like to see the auctions because, okay, what are people paying when it's open? It's not just a fixed price and maybe somebody grabbed it quick, but these are auctions. So you have every avenue and opportunity to bid what you would like to get for the card. But Harry Kane setting the all-time Tottenham goal scoring record. Hats off to Harry Kane. Well done. Already a good career. And it's, at 29, there's still probably a lot more goals in those boots for him. I do want to jump over now. Being done with the Premier League, I did say we want to talk about three players today in the Bundesliga. Give you a little idea of where things are at in the Bundesliga. You do have Bayern leading the way by 1 point over Union Berlin. Dortmund is in third place. And then there's also, I want to look at Eintracht Frankfurt at fifth place because those are kind of the three players or players from the three teams that I want to look at. And the first one is Giovanni Reyna. 20 years old. We know Gio Reyna. He kind of was in a lot of controversy with Greg Berhalter during the World Cup, after the World Cup. It really just was a mess. But he is playing for BVB, Borussia Dortmund in Germany. And post-World Cup, he's been pretty good form. Overall, he is coming off the bench, but in 15 games, he does have 5 goals. But he has 3 goals in his last 3 games. And so I wanted to kind of look at pricing overall, and you can kind of see that we haven't moved a ton in pricing for Giovanni Reyna. So this is a 2021-2022 Topps Chrome Bundesliga. This is the magenta auto out of 150, so it is numbered. These are all raw copies. One sold August 1st for $62.75. November 6th, we had one sell for $45.09. And then finally, February 5th, just a few days ago, we had one at auction sell for $67. So if you're looking for autos of Gio Reyna or you want to get an auto of Gio Reyna, you can find autos of Giovanni Reyna for relatively good prices, in my opinion. So under really, under $65, if you kind of average the law of averages there, $65 or less for an auto numbered out of 150 of Gio Reyna. That to me is something that, as somebody who doesn't love to spend tons and tons of money, but could get in an auto of Gio Reyna, I like that. The other one that has been very impressive and flying kind of under the radar, if you haven't been watching Eintracht Frankfurt, is Randel Kolo Muani. He was on the French team during the World Cup. He's played in 18 games in the Bundesliga. He has 9 goals and 10 assists. So he's tied for 5th in goals in the Bundesliga, and he leads the league in assists. So he has scored or assisted in 10 of his last 11 games. That's a pretty impressive statistic. There was only one game that he didn't have a goal or an assist in the game, and that goes before the World Cup. He was in great form. It's one of the reasons he got called into the French national team for the World Cup, and he has picked up right where he left off and returning from the World Cup. So Muani does have cards, but again, they are a little bit few and far between. Now, Topps did a summer signing, a Bundesliga summer signing, and he was in there as one of his Star Rising, I believe, or Star Rising. This is his purple out of 25. I was pretty impressed with this price, a sold price of $175 February 3rd. This is a raw copy. But he, again, is not in a whole lot. So some of the guys that are making some big waves in their leagues don't have a ton of cards. So the demand is in my mind kind of outpacing the supply that's out there for them. But he is in Topps Deco as well, and that's kind of now the third time that I've said that. He is in Topps Deco as a rookie card. And some of his, you can kind of be on the lookout for some of his parallels, the out of 99s, the out of 49s, the out of 25s. But he is one to keep an eye on. When you have 19, when you're a participant of 19 goals over the course and you're only about halfway through the season, that's impressive to me. That stands out to me, and he's going to be kind of one to watch for me coming down the stretch. And finally, we got to talk about Jamal Musiala. 19-year-old kid. I think his birthday is February 26th. At the end of this month, he'll turn 20. Wow, still so young. 18 games in the Bundesliga. 10 goals, 6 assists. Now, this stat blew me away because I thought, we're always talking Musiala, Pedri, Gavi, Bellingham. Who is the cream of the crop, top of the class? Who's the best? So you know what I did? I was like, I wonder what these other guys have done. So you got Musiala, you got his 10 goals and his 6 assists in the Bundesliga this year. Pedri, Gavi, and Bellingham combined have 10 goals and 6 assists this year in their respective leagues. Think about that. Pedri, Gavi, Bellingham, 10 goals, 6 assists. Musiala is doing it all by himself. So impressive to me what he's able to do. I'm so impressed by Musiala as a whole. If you watched his run for his goal this weekend, a lot of people will say the lack of defense, but this kid and the dribbling that he is able to do, I mean, he just looked like the defense was standing still. It was silly. And then you think about it, he's still a teenager. He's 19 years old, and this is what he's doing in the Bundesliga. Very, very impressive by Jamal Musiala. And I can't speak highly enough about him. I kind of said he was going to have the World Cup. He was going to be the rising star. I was wrong about that. He didn't have, this into the stratosphere moment. Enzo Fernandez kind of became that young player, into the stratosphere. And look at where it got him, moved to Chelsea. But here, Musiala is in the center of the midfield for Bayern Munich, the biggest team in Germany and one of the biggest teams in the world at 19 years old. And so I picked a Topps Finest rookie refractor. This is from 2020, 2021. These are PSA 10s. The blues are out. The blue wave refractors are out of 150. In July, one of these sold for $159.50. January of this year, one sold at auction for $218.38. And then a fixed price here on February 5th was $224.99. So you see steady growth for a young talent who really is producing. Now, I will tell you, if you didn't watch the goal against Wolfsburg, go back and watch just how he weaves and darts through the defense and finishes off with a goal. It's pretty impressive to me, and I cannot wait to watch him a little bit more as we continue this Bundesliga season. Now, we're going to fly over to Ligue 1 in France. You see at the top of the league, there is PSG, followed by Marseille. But if you look down the list, and you will see at number 10, if you're not watching it, number 10, you got Rennes. And they have a young Arsenal striker on loan. Now, before we move on to that striker, I want you to notice Rennes has scored 26 goals this year in Ligue 1 play. 26 goals. Folarin Balogun, who is 21 years old, has 14 goals and 2 assists. So he is responsible or partially responsible for 16 of the 26 goals Rennes has scored in Ligue 1 this year. Now, 14 goals leads the league. Leads the league in goals. Now, that might be some of you who know Ligue 1 and PSG, Balogun has scored more goals than Mbappe, than Neymar, than Messi. Now, you can even go a little bit older strikers or veteran strikers, Ben Yedder. You could look at Alexander Lacazette, former Arsenal striker. He has scored more goals than any of them. And he had a hat trick here over last week. It's just impressive to me what he's doing for Rennes in Ligue 1. And it really begs the question, what is Arsenal going to do with him? Now, if you're looking for cards of Balogun, you're going to find him in 2021, 2022. Premier League Prism, the one I picked here that you can see on the screen. If you're watching, if you're listening, this is his Red Mojo Prism out of 159. I chose the Red Mojo Prism because it is a color match. I do love the Red Mojo with the Arsenal kit, but this card sold December 12th, 2022, raw for $40. Fast forward to January 22nd, a best offer was accepted for $44. And February 3rd, a best offer was accepted for $60. So we've seen steady and substantial growth for Balogun and his card prices out of Prism here over the last few months. Not 6 months, not 8 months, not 12 months. We're seeing this over just since December 12th of 2022. So pretty steady growth, good growth out of Balogun, but really what he's doing on the pitch, people are taking notice. But Prism is not the only set that you will find him in. You will also find him in that 2021-2022 Panini Score Premier League. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I will be the first one to admit it. As a former teacher, I will say, I'm wrong a lot. You just got to call me out on it. And then this one is, I believe, a European release only. I think this was the Score set was only released in Europe, but this is his Orange Lava out of Score, out of 99, so under 100. Sold March 6th. So go back a little bit further. March 6th, best offer was $26. And then February 3rd, this card sold for $50. So almost double here in just over 8 months. Is that 8 months? I think that's 8 months. But you got February 3rd, $50 raw for an out of 99 Folarin Balogun. The interesting thing about him is that he actually is able to represent the U.S. men's national team in competition. So my question for all of you is, should we be going after guys like Folarin Balogun? Do we want him as the number 9 for the U.S. men's national team? Think of all of the guys that we have talked about leading up to the World Cup. Jordan Pefok, and then you've got Ricardo Pepi and Matthew Hoppe and Josh Sargent. Even I think Malik Tillman is U.S. men's national team. And now we have a chance for a guy like Balogun. And we have, Ferreira. There are so many guys that we have kind of thrown up there as possible, just possible strikers for the U.S. men's national team. But I think personally, if you're going to go after a guy like this, he could give you the quality you need at the number 9. And then you start putting the pieces around him. You got guys like Tim Weah, Brendan Aronson, Gio Reyna, Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams. The attacking, flows freely. But if you can have a clinical goal scorer, which I think is one of the things we lack as a U.S. men's national team, I think, he could be one that would really, really make an impact in that squad. Now, finally, I do have to ask a question. As an Arsenal fan, I don't even know if I have the answer to this question, so I'm looking for your help in the chat below, or you can DM me on Instagram with your answers. But what do you do if you're Arsenal? What do you do with Folarin Balogun? Do you loan him out again? He's 21 years old. He's proving himself in France, and I know sometimes, scoring goals in France doesn't always translate back into the Premier League, but he's having a fantastic season. So my question is, do you loan him out again? 1. 2, do you get him in the squad? Do you get him in the side? And then does that mean like Eddie Nketiah gets sent out on loan, or do you take a transfer fee for him? Do you transfer Balogun? Do you kind of cash in on all of the things that he's doing this year? If he's not in Arteta's plans, do you take a sizable transfer fee for him and move him on permanently? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer here, but I can tell you one thing as a Arsenal fan and as a football fan in general, it's never a bad thing when you have multiple guys who can score goals, right? I mean, if you have 2-3 strikers that you're comfortable with up front, I think that's a good thing, and it's a good problem to have. It'll be one to watch what happens to him, and I don't know. I honestly don't know what I would want. I'm still kind of digesting it. To be first in League One, I never thought I would say that, first and foremost, with guys like Mbappe. And I know Mbappe's out and Mbappe's hurt for a couple weeks and is probably going to miss that first leg of the Champions League. But regardless, 14 goals is nothing to just kind of ignore. So Balogun, I thought I'd bring him up, just kind of put him on your radar. He's probably, for a lot of you on your radar already, but just wanted to give you kind of that nugget here moving forward. Now, last but not least is the news that is breaking from Europe, from England, in discussions of Manchester City. Now, it's interesting to me. They have allegedly caused issues financially. I think it was like 100 times they've been in compliance financially with Premier League rules, or and you're hearing a lot of things that are going on about what are the possible, if found guilty, what could happen? Is it going to be a fine? Is it going to be points deduction? Is it going to be, could they be expelled from the Premier League? Here's what I'll say about Manchester City. We got to talk about it. It's out there, but we also have to understand, like, you can't jump to conclusions. You have to make sure kind of like to follow it, to watch it, to kind of take the news as it comes, because it's really easy. What I've learned, Arsenal transfer news prior to this window and last window, we were linked to every player under the sun. If you believed everything you read and everything you heard, Arsenal would have hundreds of players and no money, right? But all of those players didn't come through the door, and for me, I always look at this going, okay, these are serious allegations that have been made against Manchester City. But I'm one to say, okay, let's walk this process through. Let's see, were they truly in the wrong? Did they make some financial issues or blunders in dealing with the rules and practices of the Premier League over that 9-year period? I think it was 2009 to 2018, and that would be substantial. Could the verdict of guilty and the sanctions being placed on Manchester City be big? Yeah, absolutely. Could they possibly not be in the wrong? It's possible. Like, nobody knows what's going to happen, but I think this is also one to track because they are high profile, right? They're second in the Premier League. They've got some of the highest profile names in the sport playing for them. They probably have one of the, the highest profile managers who basically has, in the summer, I believe he came out and said, I asked him, if they're in the wrong, if I won't be here if they're lying to me, essentially, right? And so we'll see if Pep hangs around, but we gotta let the process do its work, and then we'll kind of see it from the side. But I mean, this is so much fun. I mean, news is coming fast and furious. Play is happening. We got Champions League coming back. What are you most excited about in the football world for February? What are you most pumped about? Is it the Premier League? Is it the Champions League? Is it the Bundesliga? Where are you going to spend most of your attention? Who are you going to spend most of your time watching? I threw out a couple names of guys that I've kind of been monitoring and watching. I will always, always find myself watching the Arsenal week in and week out as we look, as we're still in first place, which is crazy. We haven't been there in a long time. So, I've always got a smile on my face as you look at the table and think, there's a real possibility of good things to continue to happen. But for you guys, I would love to hear it. Let me know, who you're watching, who you're excited about. Maybe even like, cards that you're looking at, if you're willing to share, but please, it's always, I feel like I talk at you for 30 to 35 minutes when, a lot of times I want to talk with you. So in order for me to talk with you, you got to kind of be a part of the show. So drop some comments in the YouTube channel below. Please feel free, always DM me at St. Croix Cards on Instagram. I love talking soccer. I love talking cards. So please don't hesitate. If you have questions, if you have comments, loop me in, clue me in. I love to have those conversations. But that's all I got for you this week. So take care, make it a great week, and we will see you all next episode. Have a good one, guys.